Alright, so we've solved some linear equations, those multi-step equations and inequalities, but can we write equations? So there's two parts to writing equations. One is just your standard linear equation, and the other is going to be from word problems. But we want to review first on how to write linear equations. When we talk about linear equations, we're talking about them in a couple of forms. The first form we want to talk about is slope-intercept form. Okay. That's y equals mx plus b. You can also write an equation of a line in standard form. That's ax plus by equals c. Or there's a final version called point slope form. So we can write it in point slope form. Y minus. No matter which way you write these equations, it is always going to come back to this slope-intercept form. This is the most popular form to write your equations of a line. So let's look at it graphically. I'm going to do a few, and then I'm going to leave some of these blank for you to practice. Number one, remember when you have this slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, this is what we'll primarily work with, that this m stands for your slope. Okay. Your slope can be counted as rise over run. And remember, this b part represents your y-intercept, where it crosses the y-axis. So we'll start with our y-intercept always. We'll look to see where it crosses the y-axis. This crosses at -2, so I'm going to write -2. To find my slope, I'm going to count rise over run. So I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to go up 4 actually, and then so that's 4 over 1, 2, 3. I'm looking for that next perfect point, that next perfect vertex that my line crosses through. So I went up 4 and over 3, so there's the slope of my line. In our next example here, we'll start with this y-intercept at 1. So we'll write y equals, and we'll leave a gap, plus 1. And from there, I'm going to go down 1. Down's represented by a negative, and over 1. Down and over, down and over. So this is a -1 slope. See if you can fill in those next 3 examples, and let's look at this last one here. This last one has a y-intercept at 2. Does this line move up or down? No. It has a slope of 0. So if we wrote 0x, what's anything times 0? 0. So this is the equation of a horizontal line. Y equals something. I also challenge you to write the equations of these 4 lines here. For example, you would list it as L1, and you would write y equals. So I'm going to highlight L1 here, and using different colors might help you best. And here's my axis. Looks like it goes up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so I have a y-intercept of 5. And my slope seems to be down 1 and over 2. No. Let's see. Let's go down 2 and over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And -2/5 x. Go ahead and label those 4. Flip it on over to the back. Alright, write the slope-intercept form of the equation of each line using the slope and the intercept. Well, if we know that we're trying to complete y equals mx plus b, then we know our slope and we know our y-intercept. Our slope is given to us, so it's going to be y equals 1/4 x, and our y-intercept was given to us, so I'll write -3. These next 4 problems look just like the ones you practiced on the front, so you can continue with that. What about writing the slope intercept form of the equation of a line through given points? Well, if they're through given points, you're going to have to find the slope first. So let's find the slope first. Remember, your slope formula is y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. So I'm going to label these points here. Here's x1 and y1. Here's x2 and y2. So I'm going to say that this is 0 minus a -5 all over 0 minus 1. Minus a negative is positive, so my slope is a -5. So I could write my equation as y equals -5x plus b. I'm still searching for my y-intercept. Well, if they give you 2 points, don't you think you could substitute? So I'm going to substitute. I'm going to put in a 0 here. I'm going to put in a 0 here. What's 0 times anything? 0. So my b equals 0. So I'm going to have y equals -5x. And you don't even have to write the plus 0 part. Let's try one more example, and you can practice 2 more on your own. So let's label these again. x1 and y1, x2 and y2. Let's subtract y2 minus a y1, and let's do x2 minus an x1. So this is really -1 plus 3, and 0 plus 4. 3 minus 1 is 2, 4 plus 0 is 4. So my slope is 1/2. So I'm going to write my equation again. Y equals, my slope is 1/2, but I'm still searching for my y-intercept. So let's substitute. Always substitute something with 0. It kind of helps. So we'll do -1 equals 1/2 times 0 plus b. Anything times 0 is 0, so b is equal to a -1. So my equation is y equals 1/2 x minus 1. Go ahead and try those problems, and we'll continue on when we come back from break. Level 2. Okay, I guess level 2 should have come before level 3. It looks like I copied level 3 2 times. So you may rip out the second level 3, but right now we are on level 2. Okay. Level 2 has some of those same review problems that you saw on the level 3 worksheet. You've done an example, so fill those in. Let's look at something if it's given in a table. If it's given in a table, you want to look at your x values first. Are these going up by a constant amount? Well, here the answer is yes. We're going up by 1s. We're going up by 1s. 1s. Okay. So in these examples here, you're going to look at your y values and ask yourself, how is this changing? From 0 to 2.5, what did you add? 2.5. When you go from 2.5 to 5, what did you add? 2.5. That constant addition is called your slope. So your slope right now is going to be y equals 2.5x. And what is your y-intercept? If you look at a table, how can you recognize your y-intercept? Well, you recognize it when when x equals 0. So when x equals 0, you have a y-intercept. Your y-intercept is 0. So there's your equation. Let's try number 2. We're going up by ones, so we're going to look. From 6 to 7, what did we do? We added 1. What did we do? We added 1. Remember, that constant addition is your slope. So my equation here is going to be y equals 1x. Well, what's my y-intercept? My y-intercept is when x equals 0, so I'm going to do plus 6. And there's the equation of my line there. So why don't you try those next 3? What about these next 3 tables here? They're not counting by ones, so we're going to have to do something a little bit different. For example, in problem A, I'm going to use my slope formula to find my slope. I'm going to say 8 minus 2 all over 3 minus 0. I get that because here's my y2 and my y1, my x2 and my x1. So I'm using that slope formula from the previous page. This is going to get me 6 over 3, which is 2. So my slope is 2. Y equals 2x. Remember, your y-intercept is found when x is equal to 0. So we're going to say plus 2. And there's your equation for that table. Well, let's do letter C here. Here in letter C, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do 8 minus 5 all over 4 minus 2. 8 minus 5 is 3. 4 minus 2 is 2. So I have a slope of 3 halves. So I'm going to write y equals 3 halves x. Well, I don't see in my table where x is equal to 0. So I'm going to have to find it. I'm going to write 1 and 0. I'm going to continue my table on. If I'm adding 1.5 to go this way, I'm going to subtract. So 5 minus 1.5 is 3.5. Minus 1.5 is 2. So here my y-intercept is also 2. I just had to take some time to find it. I'd like for you to finish the rest of this front page, and then you may stop. Happy equation writing!